So you're unmuted until the host meets everyone.
Hello, my name is Sidney Reynolds. I am the Technology Director for Washington County. It is our ongoing mission at Washington County to give all citizens an equal opportunity to participate in their government. Since this is our first Quorum Court meeting using Zoom, I wanted to give you some insight as to how we're going to handle the electronic aspect of the meeting and how you can participate. If you're a Quorum Court member using Zoom and click on participants at the bottom of the screen, all of the Quorum Court members are shown as panelists, and all members of the audience are shown as attendees. At the beginning of the meeting, everyone but the moderator is muted by default. If a member of the Quorum Court would like to be recognized to speak, we ask that you raise your hand using the Zoom controls. The raise hand feature can be found by clicking on participants at the bottom of your screen. And when the participants window opens up on the right side of your screen, the raise hand icon is located at the bottom of the participants window. Once you are recognized by the moderator, you will be unmuted. When a roll call or a vote is conducted, all Quorum Court members will be temporarily unmuted at the same time to expedite the process. If at any time you need to call a point of order during the meeting, you may type point of order in the chat window and send to all participants. All chat dialogue will be recorded in public record. If you are an attendee and would like to speak when the moderator asks for public comment, please raise your hand at that time. If you're using Zoom, you can use the control at the bottom of the screen to raise your hand. If you are calling using your phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Please do not raise your hand until the moderator asks for public comment. When the moderator recognizes you by name or the last 4 digits of your phone number, you will be unmuted. At that time, for clarification, please state your name and the city which you reside. Thank you. Hello, my name is Sidney Reynolds.
Good evening. The Washington County Quorum Court for March 19, 2020 is now called to order. I welcome you. This is our county's very first county Quorum Court meeting through Zoom, and so it's going to be a new experience for all of us, but many participants, and really glad that all of you guys are here to join us this evening. I wanted to say a couple of things before we get started, and namely one, I want to recognize and take a moment to share one of our employees passed last month, Ms. Sharon Drain, and longtime employee and a lot of family members who worked around the county was part of her family. And so I wanted to make a comment and just share, we gonna miss her. She served well. And so to our building and maintenance crew, again, our hearts and thoughts with the family and to the Sharon Drain family. I also want to give a COVID-19 brief. It's been a month today since all of this kind of really got started and ramped up. And it was March 16th, I issued our disaster emergency here in Washington County. I also issued an executive order granting paid leave to our county employees during this crisis. And that was to really give our elected officials the ability to best meet the needs of their employees while we continue to serve the citizens of Washington County. Yesterday, I issued another executive order to continue to give our elected officials that same ability to, again, best meet the needs of their employees to better serve the citizens of the county. To date, Washington County has had, we have 44 positive coronavirus cases, 403 negative cases, 29 recoveries, and so blessed and fortunate that we have not had any deaths. And again, I appreciate the citizens of Washington County who are really heeding the counsel and advice from the Center for Disease Control, as well as the Department of Health guidelines. I want to urge you to keep healthy, keep washing your hands, keep your hands out your face, continue to do your social distancing where you can. And when you can't do your social distancing, make sure you have a mask on. Again, stay home. I know a lot of folks are still thinking that it's not that serious, but again, where you can do your social distancing and you can limit your groups, do stay home, wear your mask. Washington County is seeing far less exposure and far less than we would expect it given our population size and given what you see across the country. And so again, I think where we're standing is largely because the citizens of Washington County has really taken heed to what's going on, listened to CDC as well as our Department of Health, as well as some of the different guidelines that's out there. So I thank you, citizens of Washington County, as well as I would like to say it truly was a response and preparedness of our elected officials and our particular teams. Our emergency management team, they have been training back and forth for years over this type of for this type of thing, and clearly we couldn't know it was going to be a pandemic, but they have been training and training others and immediately jumped into action, had enough inventory to help some of those other entities around the county by having the additional personal protective equipment available in their inventory, and they continue to pull that. Our sheriff office made many changes to continue to protect and serve our county, as well as our intake process. We put a joint county task force together between Benton County and Washington County, again, pulling together our health community, our first responders, chambers of commerce and business leaders, as well as our law enforcement and school districts, coming together again to focus on this public health, as well as this economic crisis that's facing both the counties. I appreciate Barry Mooring and his teams out there in Benton County, and again, the collaboration between the two counties and all their various and focus on this COVID-19 pandemic. Again, the Director of Emergency Management meets with the County Health Director every Monday with all the countywide elected officials, as well as circuit judges every week. We've been doing this now for going on 5 weeks now, and we meet every week to talk about the state of the county and listening to and asking questions of our County Health Director, as well as our Emergency Management Director, again, as we take those different things that they present and put it into our business and respond accordingly. So again, thanks to all our countywide elected officials and our circuit judges. This has been a tremendous challenge to us, as well as to our citizens. Our citizens are trying to pay bills, assess properties, attend court, get married, they're hungry, find food and find housing, or just go back to work. It's a time where folks are just unsure about what's going to lead tomorrow and what's going to be next. It's the fear of the unknown, and yet unemployment is growing. Schools will now reopen, but being done through alternative means, and no one knows when we will get back to regular. However, the elected officials and circuit judges have been working towards that end. With each passing day, the whole world moves, and we will move close to the end of this pandemic. And I'm excited about that. I am, again, with each passing day, we get closer to the end of this pandemic, and we will find a vaccine, and that's around the corner sooner than we probably even thought. The opening of the doors and businesses and schools will happen. Retail without restrictions will occur. Our churches will be full open, and we'll come together socially again. I'm optimistic, and my hope and faith causes me to say that we will be better and stronger coming through this. Again, stay healthy, stay safe, and check on your family and friends and neighbors. Hold on. It will be tough, but better days are ahead, and if we continue to unify and work together. We will have 2 meetings tonight. The first, again, is the March 19th meeting, which we're about to enter. And then after that meeting, we'll have a 5-minute break, and then we'll go into our April meeting. With that, we'll go ahead and ask JP Cunningham to lead us in the prayer and pledge. JP Cunningham.
Thank you, Judge. I would like to say it's great to see everybody. Okay, let's pray. We hold in tenderness and prayer the collective suffering of our world at this time. We grieve precious lives lost and vulnerable lives threatened. We pray, may love, not fear, go viral. Inspire our leaders to discern and choose wisely, aligned with the common good. Help us to practice social distancing and reveal to us new and creative ways to come together in spirit and in solidarity. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, JP Cunningham. All right, so we'll go ahead to our second item on the agenda.
Have to move to
Ms.
approve.
Patty, can you put the agenda? Post the agenda up.
We have to move to approve.
Okay, we need it.
Oh, my hand thing went off. Where'd it go?
Which one?
The hand.
Oh, just click here again. It was white.
Do we have everyone? Right. Tonight, Ms. Patty will do a roll call of the members here present for the meeting. Ms. Patty, will you call the roll?
Agenda over. You want to shrink it.
Lance Johnson,
Present.
Susan Cunningham,
Right here's a line freedom. You'll see that change.
Derek Thomas.
Like that. There you go. Now you can move that line over.
I'll come back to him at the end of the roll call. Judith Yanez,
Now just
Present.
pull the mouse button down and drag it over.
Patrick Deacons,
Present.
Lisa Ecke,
Present.
Sam Duncan,
Present.
Chandra Washington,
Present.
Eva Madison,
Here.
Andrea Jenkins,
I'm here.
Suki Hires,
Present.
Sue Madison,
Here.
Willie Lemming,
Present.
Ann Harbison,
One more time.
Present.
Butch Pond,
Present.
and is Derek Thomas. Okay, Judge, we have 14 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Patty. We have a quorum. With that, we have the adoption of the agenda. I've spoken to the sponsor of ordinance number 8, agenda item number 8, JP Deacons, an emergency ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit by the planning board, which is the Ozark Sanctuary Cemetery. The applicant has withdrawn their request for a CUP, a conditional use permit, and they requested that the item be removed from tonight's agenda. I also spoke with JP Harbison, who sponsored the ordinances number 14, which is the ordinance authorizing an issuance of and sale of capital improvement revenue bonds for the purpose of financing the cost of the court facility, as well as item number 16, which is the body cooler for the county coroner, both of which have been requested to be removed from the agenda. So with that, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second. Willie.
I have a motion by JP Lemming
And a second.
Yes, sir.
and a second by JP Madison.
No.
No, it was me.
So,
Who was me?
Sue.
JP Madison, yes. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hand up.
Those opposed?
No, I have my hand up.
So we will do a roll call. Ms. Patty, will you do a roll?
Judge, I have my hand up.
Who is that? I don't know who's
Eva
speaking.
Madison. I put my hand up. It's been up for a while. I don't know if you can't see it.
I don't see all of you guys. I'm sorry. What's your question?
Well, I think we received an email this week and I shared the concern. If you get on the county's website and see an agenda that's entitled March 19th, 2020, I don't know that the world understood that that would be considered on April 16th. I think I know what happened because the judge canceled the March meeting and moved the agenda items to this one, but I felt like they should have all been on an April agenda because I think there's going to be some genuine concern about why we're taking up items at an April meeting when the agenda was published in March. So I feel like that needs to be on the record.
Okay.
And I'm done.
All right, thank you. We did postpone the March meeting and moved it to April, which is the meeting that we're covering now, the March agenda items. And then obviously we'll follow that with the April meeting. So Ms. Patty, go ahead and do the roll.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Warshik, Chandra Washington. I'll come back to her. Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deacon,
Yes.
and Chandra Washington. All right, 1, 2, 3.
She said she didn't get unmuted.
Judge, we have 11, 4, and 2.
Yes. I just got
Oh, you're here?
Washington. Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
12, 4, and 2 against.
So the adoption of the amended agenda is passed.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Patty. Item 5 is citizen comments. At this time, we'll have the citizens come and make comments. We have allotted a total of 15 minutes for your comments.
Let's go back to preliminary motions, Judge.
Oh, I
Back
missed
it up. Yeah,
what
this
number?
one. Number 4.
I missed that? I sure did. Let me ask, I'm sorry, item 4, are there any preliminary motions?
Yes. I'll move that ordinances be read by title only.
Okay, we have JP Madison, who made a motion to read by title only. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by JP Jenkins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion passes. We'll read ordinances all by title only. Thank you. Item 5, citizen comment.
JP Ann Harbison has her hand raised.
JP Cunningham,
Harbison.
JP Harbison.
I don't have my hand raised. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Can we lower that one?
Well,
All right, so item 5, citizen comments. At this time, we'll have
There you go.
citizens,
Now you did it. She did it for you.
Oh, okay.
we'll have citizens come and spend time. We'll allot 15 minutes. Each citizen will be limited to 3 minutes. When you're called upon, please speak and say your name and where you live. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand. If you're on Zoom, you'll just use the control to raise your hand. If you're on a phone, you'll go ahead and hit *9 to raise your hand. At this time, are there any citizens who wish to make a comment?
Judge, give me just 1 second to pull this up. Okay, Judge, it looks like the first individual up to speak is Stephen Zaga.
All right, Stephen Zaga, you have 3 minutes. Please restate your name and where you live.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, members. My name is Steve Zaga. I'm an attorney. My office is in Springdale. I live in Fayetteville. I represent the residents of Bridlewood subdivision who oppose the CUP for Genesis countertops and accessories. I want to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to visit with you. Some old colleagues, some folks I don't know very well, but I wanted to talk about the item that is on, I think it's agenda item 8. I can't see it now because the screen is off, but with 3 minutes to comment, I wanted to tell you the first reason. I've heard 3 basic reasons that I think you need to wrap your heads around, JPs, when it comes to this particular CUP. I've heard that members of the Quorum Court have said that they're not happy with being reversed at circuit court when they turn CUPs down. I'm not silly enough to believe that you shouldn't be concerned about court, circuit court, and court results, but I believe certainly that it should be the last thing on your mind when you are voting on ordinances in your legislative capacity. You ought to legislate with the idea that your ordinances are wrapped in the presumption of constitutionality and validity, and that what you do as legislators is entitled to deference by the courts. You shouldn't cede your legislative authority to any judge, any judicial officer, anywhere. And if you're never going to say no to a CUP, then the legitimate question comes, why do you have zoning on the books at all in Washington County? Second, I've understood that one of the justifications for folks to be voting for this tonight is that there is an unlicensed existing business just to the north of this proposed site, and therefore this use is compatible. With respect, you cannot bootstrap a legal use onto an illegal use. To do so would be like saying that there's a meth lab down the street, and therefore this distillery or brewery that is proposed to go in as a CUP must be okay. I urge you please to reject that logic. That is foolhardy. Third, I'm asking you to follow your own ordinance, specifically Title 11, Section 200A4. That's your law. Compatibility means primacy for the existing residents and uses that are already there. What does that mean? This is a residential and agricultural area. Compatible means that it is harmonious with those uses that are already there. This is an industrial and commercial use. It is primarily an industrial use. He will be manufacturing there. That's what industrial is. That is not what's going on there now. It is not compatible with the ordinance. It is not compatible with current property use. And on the merits, I urge you to vote no on this CUP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zaga. Citizen comments.
Judge, we have Vicky Cowling.
Ms. Vicky Cowling, you're recognized. You have 3 minutes. Please restate your name and where you live.
Yes, my name is Vicky Cowling and I'm in Springdale. Just thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Bridlewood Estates residents and against the conditional use permit for the planned granite manufacturing facility. I serve on the board of directors of the Bridlewood POA, and I had to think long and hard before running for my elected position because it can be a very thankless job. Homeowners, which are my neighbors and my friends, become unhappy when the board enforces the rules and restrictions established for the protection of my neighborhood. You, as the legislative body of Washington County government, are elected to enforce ordinances for the protection of residents. We are not asking you to do anything but enforce the already established ordinances in our agricultural and residential area. We purchased land and built our homes outside the city limits in Washington County because we wanted quiet, beauty, and the ability to walk the vineyards and let our children feed the horses and one very sweet zonkey. I pose a question to you. What's our recourse if the granite manufacturing permit is approved and it turns out at a minimum to disrupt our environment, deflates our property values, and is a complete disaster? I already know the answer. It's nothing. We were property owners first, and the fact that Mr. Valley might lose some money spent prematurely should have no bearing on your vote. Unlike us, it's my understanding that Mr. Valley has multiple properties for us. Our home is the largest personal investment and asset that we have. Our investment should also be considered in your decision-making. Homes in our subdivision stay on the market longer than average. Reasons include higher price points, significant distance from shopping, being served by Springdale ISD, which, by the way, my grandchildren proudly attend, but Blyers don't want. And now we will have direct proximity to a granite facility. We enthusiastically selected Country Living for the joys of septic system, longer response time for fire and ambulance, longer commutes to work, and it takes a rare buyer that wants the same. We don't need another liability. I would like to remind you that the building was previously commercial with a low traffic cafe, not industrial, and should not be grandfathered. Washington County ordinances that we are asking you to uphold were established for my protection. I asked you on behalf of the homeowners of Washington Estates to deny the Bridlewood Estates to deny the CUP for the granite manufacturing facility that will never negatively impact the rural residentials and agricultural areas. If you have supported the CUP in the past, we hope you have the courage to vote with us today and enforce our ordinances. Very simply put, the granite facility does not belong in our area. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Cowling. Public comments. Public comments.
Judge, we have Don Kephart.
Mr. Kephart, you have 3 minutes. Restate your name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Don Kephart, and I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, in the Bridlewood Estates area. And I represent, as does Vicki, a large group of very concerned citizens, both within the Bridlewood development, but also in the surrounding area. Many people very concerned, watching on YouTube tonight to see how this unfolds. I've had the opportunity to speak to the Quorum Court several times, so I'll keep this very brief. But I was going to touch on 11200A4. Mr. Zaga spoke about that, but clearly an industrial business is not compatible with a residential area. It's just not. And so I think there's a conflict there. We're also, if you're looking at putting an industrial business next to a residential area, we're in conflict with the Washington County Plan for Land Use and Development, which was passed in 2006. So both of these are, they're Washington County ordinances, and an industrial business in a residential area conflicts with both of these. The last thing I just want to mention, Vicki touched on it just a moment ago, but I can tell you from the viewpoint of my family, when we moved here into Washington County, bought our land and built our house, before we did that, we looked at the zoning in the area and we saw that it was residential and agricultural. And so based on that, we built our house here, sizable investment for us, huge. And really when we did that, we trusted that the county officials, the leaders of Washington County, would honor and uphold the zoning ordinances. So I would just ask you, please do the right thing here tonight and deny an industrial business from dropping into the middle of a residential area. Please vote no on this conditional use permit, and I'll yield back the rest of my time. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Mr. Kephart. Public comments. Public comments.
Judge, we have Freddie Vale.
Freddie Vale. Mr. Vale, you had 3 minutes. You're recognized. Please restate your name and where you live.
My name is Freddie Vallet, and I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. As everybody already know, I am the applicant for the Genesis countertops and accessory project. First of all, I want to say I'm glad everybody's doing okay. And also I want to thank everybody who has devoted their time during all this time that I've been working with the county on my project. First of all, I want to say we are excited to get started with our business. I know we have waited, at least 6 months with this process. And I ask everybody to give me a fair opportunity tonight. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to do the right thing. We are eager to get started with our business, and we want to contribute to the local economy. We're living in hard times right now. Many people are unemployed, and we're all fear about what's going to happen tomorrow. And we need to build an opportunities to work tomorrow, and we want to do just that. We want to be respectful. We understand the concerns of our neighbors, and we have done many things that we feel that will help alleviate the concerns that our neighbors have. We just need an opportunity to get started, and I hope that everybody votes to give me a fair opportunity tonight. That's all I have to say, and I thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valet. Citizen comments.
Judge, we have Steve Raybach.
Mr. Steve Raybach, you recognized. You have 3 minutes. Please restate your name and where you live.
Hi, my name is Stephen Raybach, and I am the owner of the properties all adjacent to the property for Genesis. I own the brewery, Saddleback Brewery, White River Cafe, and that's where I'm actually sitting right now because we're trying to generate a little business here if possible out here. I'd just like to point out that I've heard a lot of comments, and I'm eager to have Genesis as a neighbor. I'm the only one, I can't see who else is here, but I believe I'm the closest neighbor. And that property has been in a commercial status long before any of the other people who are voicing concerns today were there. So that really any concern that they're voicing would not be to lower their property value. They would be in effect removing a pre-existing business that's been there since '94 to enhance property values at the expense of a neighbor. And really that's not supported by any code. If you run up and down Haberton or Guy Terry, this is one of the prettiest, well-maintained properties right now. He's done a great job keeping it painted and really improved the whole looks of the corner there. That corner is always going to be commercial property. It's a busy intersection. There's no residential person that would want to put a home right there. It doesn't even make sense. The county has done a great job at identifying the locations where commercial properties should validly sit. The value of this property residential wise would be very little, if anything. The planners are using their discretion properly. The codes and statutes in force are subjective in nature. There are objective statutes which could come into play on other properties. They specify distances from schools and churches for certain types of business, but there is none put in place for this business, and for valid reason, because this is a valid business to be potentially placed on this intersection, a busy intersection. I would prefer that there's another granite operating business just 400 or 500 feet away. They've been there for years. They're low profile, low key, predictable. I'd enjoy having them as my neighbor. I would fear what other types of commercial properties could come into play if he was not approved. Please approve him. I think it's the best interest for all the neighbors and the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Varg. Citizen comments. Citizen comments. Citizen comments. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and move to item 6, approval of the minutes. The February minutes were emailed out with the agenda packets. Are there any corrections?
Yes. I'm raising my hand.
JP Madison.
Thank you. I move approval of the minutes with one correction in paragraph 10. it says a condition use. This is minor. It should be a conditional use. With that correction, I move approval of the February minutes.
Thank you, JP Madison. JP Harbison.
Second.
We have a motion by JP Madison and a second by JP Harbison for the approval of the minutes given with the correction on item paragraph 10 from condition to conditional use. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? All righty. Approval of the minutes is passed. Again, your county property report is in your agenda. I made my remarks on the front end again regarding the COVID-19 brief. So with that, we're going to go ahead and move to item 9. Item 9. Item 8 was removed. Item 9, Council, will you read the title by title only, item number 9?
Item 9 is an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit allowed by the Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustments for the Genesis Countertops and Accessory Project.
So this ordinance is on its third and final reading. And so right now we'll go ahead and open up the discussion for the court. Raise your hand and we'll recognize JP Madison. Sue Madison.
Support our county ordinances. When people buy property, they count on certain things. The county is zoned residential and agricultural. Anything else is a non-conforming use. If that use ceases, it reverts back to agriculture and residential. And that's what the neighbors expected to happen if the little cafe business ever were to cease. And I think we have a contract with those residents that's what happens. That's what they expect to have happen. That's why they bought their property. And I just think we absolutely owe it to these residents to deny this conditional use. This particular use is more than just a little cafe type operation. It's an industrial use. It belongs in an industrial park. Fayetteville has an industrial park. Springdale has an industrial park. That's where it belongs. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Madison. JP Harbison, you recognize?
I'm going to make the motion to pass the Genesis Countertop and Accessory Ordinance. And I want to make a couple of comments. This property was commercial when he bought it. I believe that it's grandfathered in. I understand the concerns of the residents, but I think we have to look at what's best for everyone. And I think that this person wants to work with the neighbors and he wants his company to be compatible as much as it can be. This is not a steel mill going into a residential area. It's a small business. Small businesses are necessary for our economy. Therefore, I move that we pass this. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Harbison. We have a motion to pass. JP Duncan.
In that motion, I agree. I think that this meets the conditions of conditional use permit. Seems like a great little business. I think we need to pass this.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Comments, JP, even Madison.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judge. I am going to oppose this ordinance because the houses that are out there and the existing uses are so completely incompatible with a heavy commercial operation that if we decide that a rural farm setting plus nice homes in a residential area is compatible with heavy commercial business, we might as well throw all of our planning and zoning ordinances out the window and consider free reign in the entire county. This is very much an industrial commercial business. It doesn't belong on a rural county road. The business that was there before was a little cafe. No one could have ever foreseen that a cafe would turn into a heavy commercial business. That would be like, you know, an accounting office becoming a gas station. Nobody foresees that. I absolutely agree with the residents of the Bridlewood subdivision that their property values are at risk. When you start looking at property values and you have to start looking at what's around that property, I feel for them on that. And I also think that this is a noisy, heavy industrial business that could even disrupt their quiet enjoyment of their land. So if you look at our planning ordinances, this is something that we absolutely should not approve. And so I will be voting against this. Thank you, Mr. Judge.
Thank you, JP Madison. Any other discussion?
No more public comment, no more hands raised.
All right, public comments. Public comments. You got 12 minutes to do your public comments. And again, each one will be up to 3 minutes. So with that, public comments.
Judge, we have Steve Zaga.
Steve Zaga, you've been recognized.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, members. I would just very briefly tell the court that while I appreciate Mr. Raybach's comments, I believe he's the person who sold Mr. Valley this land. And it is incumbent upon the court, I believe, to take that as well into consideration. As JP Madison pointed out, and I think that it deserves more attention in your consideration, Justices, this was a food service business. I believe that once the ownership of it passed, as JP Madison, Sue Madison pointed out, it reverted back to either residential or agricultural. But what is before you now is a manufacturing business. And the concern echoed by my clients over and over again, and it's a concern that I hope you take into consideration, is that we're not simply talking about a restaurant. We're not even talking about a bar. We're talking about heavy commercial use, literally rock polishing, cutting, and manufacturing. Outside of the aforementioned steel mill, I don't know how you get more heavy industrial than that. It's small. I agree with that. Comparatively, we're not talking about a rock quarry or anything like that, but we are talking about a factory, a small factory. And my residents, my clients are very, very justifiably concerned that you drop that particular use into this area. That is the end of their ability to have any say-so in what happens to and around their property. Consider those things, please, while you're making up your mind. Judge, I thank you, and I thank the members of the court.
Thank you, Mr. Zaga. Public comments? Public comments?
Judge, we have Freddie Bailey.
Mr. Freddie Bailey, you're recognized. You have 3 minutes. Please restate your name and where you live.
Freddie Valley. I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. I know there were several comments made about a small cafe. I wanted to say that the small cafe was just in one small corner of the building. The building is 10,000 square feet and is over 20 years old. The building has served many commercial purposes before, such as warehousing, bottling operation, small engine repair. So it has had several commercial uses before. And I know the concern about the noise was brought up, and I want to remind everybody that I brought a specialist to do a study. And during the study, it was found that our operation in regards to noise will not impact our neighbors. And I believe everybody was given a copy of that analysis.
Thank you, Mr. Valley. Public comments.
Don Kephart.
Mr. Kephart, you're recognized. Please restate your name and where you live.
Okay, I'm Don Kephart. I live in Fayetteville. And just a couple of quick comments. Mr. Raybach made reference to another granite business that's on Haberton operating, by the way, that business is operating without a permit. And so, as Mr. Zaga said earlier, I think that is totally irrelevant to the issue at hand regarding this business. I'm not an attorney, I'm an engineer. I spent my entire life in manufacturing. And so Mr. Valley referenced a sound study, but in fact, it's not an actual sound study. It's just making some assumptions based on various types of equipment, not actual readings from equipment that he has in his business. So I think the validity of that is certainly in question. And I just want to reiterate, as has been said, this is an industrial business as defined by taking a raw material, in this case, a slab of granite, doing manufacturing operations to that slab of granite to produce a finished product, finished goods. So raw material, adding value through manufacturing processes to produce a finished product. It's an industrial business. This is a residential area. And so I would again just ask you to please deny this conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kephart. Public comments. Public comments.
Steve Raybach.
Mr. Raybach, you recognized. You have 3 minutes. Please restate your name and where you live.
Hi, this is Steve Raybach, and I am the owner of the properties adjacent to the property of Genesis in question. I just heard comments regarding my prior comments a couple times, so I'd like to clarify. First of all, the operating granite processor I feel is very relevant because it serves as an example of how low profile this type of a business is. That's just reality. They've been there for years. Whether or not they're running with a permit or not is not my point. It's not my concern, and I'm not aware of whether there's a permit there. However, it does serve the purpose to show that a granite processor is not obtrusive into any of the neighborhoods, and nobody even knew it was there. And they're running more outside than inside. That's just a simple point of view of some logic there, my point of view anyways. And as far as me being the prior owner on that property, my only financial interest that I have is the same as anyone else's financial interest, which is impact on my property values. I am a current neighbor. My property values, I believe, would be enhanced by this type of a business. And I am more, I have more of an impact than anyone else because I'm closer. I just think that's simple. And as far as noise and all, he showed me the study. They ran the machinery. They took decibel readings. It was a valid noise study. I've been in operations for most of my life. I've run the second largest manufacturing plant of its kind in the Northern Hemisphere. This type of noise generated by electrical machinery dissipates almost immediately when leaving the building. Think of yourself outside. What you'll hear are gas-powered engines from chainsaws. You won't hear electrical motors. They just don't carry sound, high frequency or not. Gas engines make sound that carries. Electric engines don't carry. There won't be any noise issue. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Mr. Raybach. Public comments. Public comments.
Judge, Mr. Don Kephart would like to speak again.
Mr. Kephart, you're recognized. You have 3 minutes. Please restate your name and where you live. Mr. Kephart.
I'm back. Okay, this is Don Kephart. I live in Fayetteville. Very quick comment that Mr. Raybach again references the existing granite business that's operating without a permit on Haberton Road. I would invite any of you to drive by that business. It is, I guess beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I would say, and I think you would agree if you took a look, it's a mess. There are granite slabs stacked all over the place, and it's, you know, I would put it under the category of an eyesore. And that's exactly the kind of thing that we're trying to avoid. So again, please deny this CUP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kephart. Public comments. Public comments. Public comments. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and look at the roll. Ms. Patty, will you do the roll call?
Give the calls for a moment, let them open the mics.
Lisa Ecke,
Hey, tell them to hang on because they're still on mute.
Hold tight, Ms. Lisa. I mean, AP back, Becky.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, Ms. Patty, will you do the roll?
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Judge, we have 10 for and 4 against. This ordinance passes.
Okay, the ordinance passes 10-4. Thank you, Ms. Patty. We'll go ahead and move to item 10. Item 10, consent agenda items. Counselor, would you read each of the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, sir. There are 8 ordinances on the consent agenda. Item 1, an ordinance recognizing additional revenues of $500 in the JDC Pond Landscape Grant Fund and appropriating $500 from the grant fund to the JDC budget for 2020. Item 2 is an ordinance anticipating additional grant revenue in the general fund for 2020 and appropriating said revenue to various budgets within the drug court grant fund for 2020. Item 3 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $76,382 in the law enforcement grant fund and appropriating the amount of $76,382 from the law enforcement grant fund to the SCAP 2019 budget for 2020. Item 4 is an ordinance anticipating additional revenue in the amount of $14,312 in the law enforcement grant fund and appropriating $14,312 from the law enforcement grant fund to the JAG grant budget for 2020. Item 5 is an ordinance recognizing revenue in the amount of $339,307 in the high intensity drug trafficking areas grant fund and appropriating $339,307 from the HIDA grant fund to the HIDA 2020 budget for 2020. Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application to the Arkansas Unpaved Roads Grant for road improvements on Jess Anderson Road, which is Washington County 882. Item 7 is an ordinance adjusting carryover revenues in various funds for 2020. And item 8 is an ordinance reducing the amount of $714,384 from line items in various county budgets and restoring those funds to unappropriated reserves and appropriating the total amount of $945,449 from unappropriated reserves to various line items for 2019.
Thank you, Counselor. JP Harbison.
As all of those items on the consent agenda.
Pause for a moment. I guess.
Could you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You made a motion to approve the consent agenda items. JP Madison, you're recognized.
Thank you. 4 relating to the SCAP, is it the SCAP grant? Which one's SCAP is number 3. If it be removed from the consent agenda.
Okay, so then we'll have to amend you have to ask the parliamentarian, do we need to amend the agenda then if you're going to take it?
Counselor, are you on? Do we need to just go ahead and vote to move that to the end of the agenda, number 3?
Yes, I believe JP Madison made a motion to move that.
Oh, I didn't hear the first part of it. Say it again, JP Madison, I'm sorry.
Well, my understanding was that the consent agenda, we all have to agree to put it on there, and I think that should come off. So if
Well,
that's
and you
motion.
did agree because there was no motion made to remove any of that. Anything could have been removed, I believe, and the agenda was adopted. So I think that it would take a 2/3 majority vote, 10 votes to remove it from the agenda.
Well, I think it actually was requested that it be removed in committee, but the chair didn't recognize the motion. So anyway, well, that's fine. I'll make a motion to remove it from the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion to remove item number 3 off of the consent agenda. So we'll go through that one and then we'll go back to JP Harbison's motion to approve all the consent agenda items. We have a second. Do we have a second to remove item number 3 off of the consent agenda? Is that JP Jenkins? Okay, we have a motion and a second to remove item number 3 off the consent agenda and move it to the end of the meeting. We'll do all in favor.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Oh, aye.
No.
Yes.
No.
Ms. Patty, do a roll, please.
Lisa Ecke,
No.
Sam Duncan,
No.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Willie Lemming,
No.
Ann Harbison,
No.
Butch Pond,
No.
Lance Johnson,
No.
Susan Cunningham,
No.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins.
No.
We have 6 for and 8 against, so this does not.
All right, so we'll go back to, it does not pass. So we will go back to JP Harbison, who's made a motion to pass the consent agenda items, all 8. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
Butch.
Second. Second.
JP Pond.
Second.
All right, we have a first and second. Ms. Patty, will you roll? Oh, please go ahead now to public comments. Public comments.
Hand up.
All right, with that, Ms. Patty?
No, we've
I
got
have my hand up.
have
I have my hand up.
comment.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, have your.
Okay, so it's public, so I didn't-
Public comments.
Public comments, Judge. Back to the Quorum Court.
Yes, who was the public comment?
There's no public comment,
No
Judge.
public comments. All right, JP Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I would urge the members who voted against or voted in favor of removing 3 to vote against the consent agenda, and we'll just tank it and we'll have to vote for all of them individually. That's the way we respect the notion of the consent agenda. Then we'll just have to vote on them all individually. Thank you, Judge.
JP Yanez.
Can you hear me?
JP Yanez.
I have a question on 3, but I'm not sure if it's the appropriate time to ask it.
Yeah, go ahead, ask.
Okay, so this is supposed to be for reimbursement of personnel that we cover through the Quorum Court budget, but it doesn't seem to be reimbursed back to the Quorum Court. It's being used for other things in the jail. So that's why I wanted it to be removed from the consent agenda so we can have a discussion about it.
Sheriff, are you on? Can we bring the sheriff's team on? Because I'm not sure. Does that money go straight back to the jail budget or the sheriff's budget, or does it go in the general? Sheriff, are your team on?
Yes. Do I have to hit anything? I'm here.
Yes. Did you hear JP Yanez's question?
She's curious why the money doesn't go back to the Quorum Court as opposed to back to the jail reimbursement. Is that the way I understood the question?
That's how I
Yes.
heard it. JP Yanez, is that what you, okay, yes.
So the question is, we're receiving grant money to reimburse for personnel cost, but it's not being reimbursed to the Quorum Court that pays for the personnel cost.
Well, it's all expenses related to housing those type individuals, whether it's food, medical, personnel is one of those, but it's all expenses which are jail related.
And is this for the current year or the previous year?
It's for this particular SCAP grant was from 2 years ago. And it's my understanding that anything that's jail related based on the SCAP grant is that it has to go back to the jail for those reimbursements.
Okay, so it's not actually a reimbursement then.
It's a reimbursement of expenses related to the detention and housing and feeding and providing medical to that segment of our population that comes through the jail.
Okay, and Sheriff, does all that income come from the Quorum Court?
The Quorum Court sets the budget, but the majority of the expenses that operate the jail come from the quarter-cent sales tax, which are completely dedicated to the operation of the detention center.
Okay, I'm just going to say this is why I wanted it removed from the consent agenda, because there's still questions on it. And I don't want to use this time right now when we're voting on the consent agenda.
Did that get you, Ms. JP Yanez?
It did, but I'm sure there's more questions on it. So somehow it ended up on a consent agenda.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, with that, JP Harmison and JP Johnson, first and second, the motion to approve the consent agenda. Ms. Patty, will you do the roll?
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Absolutely not.
Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Judge, we have 8 for and 6 against, and it does not pass.
Okay, that fails. All right, so then we'll be going through one by one. JP Ecke,
Yes.
you recognize?
Oh, I'm recognized.
I saw your hand up.
I'm sorry. That was before.
Okay, all right.
I will say this about the SCAP program. It is an assistance program. It's a payment program designed to provide federal assistance to state and localities that incur costs for incarcerating undocumented criminal aliens who committed felonies and are being held as a result of state or local convictions. And it goes on how they can use the grant for small equipment, flashlights, whatever the reimbursable items that they want to use it for is applied that way. So it doesn't go back to the Quorum Court because this is not our grant. It is law enforcement's grant. So that's all I wanted to say. And that was discussed during budget and finance.
Okay, JP Aki. JP Harbison, we're gonna go back and you're gonna have all 8 of them. So JP Madison before JP Harbison. JP Madison, you had a comment?
I wanted to raise a point of order. I believe since all of these technically got 8, they just move on to second reading at the next meeting. I don't think there's a procedure to vote on them again at the same meeting because they failed to get 10 votes.
That's correct. Correct on that, Judge.
Correct. JP Harbison, we'll just hold on then. We'll put that on the April one. Let's go ahead then to item 11. This is going to be a presentation on the Morrow Wireless Communication Facilities appeal. We'll first have a presentation from our planning team. That's the same presentation that they made to the planning board. After that, we'll follow with comments from the varying agents, whether it be the Department of Health, whoever's here to speak to the project. And then after that, the applicant will have 30 minutes to speak on the project, as well as allow people who favor the project, and then we'll have 30 minutes for the public to speak on the project. So with that, Ms. Sita, are you able to get that posted?
Oh, yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I haven't
Okay,
seen. Are you able to
fantastic.
post and take over the screen?
Yes. My apologies. Let me just make, okay.
Pat, if you could stop there, she could then share her screen.
Yeah.
Hey, Ms. Sita.
Okay. There we go. Can we see the screen?
Absolutely. Go ahead, take it away.
Fantastic. Okay, so just pull up my notes here. This is the first reading of the Morrow Wireless Communications Facility Conditional Use Permit appeal. The CUP was presented to the Planning Board on December 12th, 2019. After the presentation was given, there were 2 neighbors that provided public comment. Both were in opposition of the project. All of the attending Planning Board members voted in favor of the project. There were a total of 6 members in attendance with 1 absence. After a Planning Board decision, there is a 30-day window in which there may be an appeal of said decision. January 11th, 2020 was the last day to appeal. On January 9th and January 10th, we received a notice on each day that there had been 1 appeal each, which brings us to today. So the next few slides will be the original presentation that was given to the Planning Board on December 12th, 2019. And just in case we have to reference some slides, the only thing that I altered was just to add some slide numbers in the lower right-hand corner. Like I said, just in case we have to revisit a slide or any type of clarification.
Is that what you have, Ms. Sita? Thank you. Do we have the applicant? Is the applicant here?
The Morrow Facility Edition.
Go ahead, Ms. Sita.
Okay. The Morrow Wireless Communications Facility Conditional Use Permit request is located within the southwest portion of the county, just south of Cane Hill. The subject parcel is located on the south side of Hale Mountain. And here's a close-up of the subject parcel. Smith Communications is requesting a conditional use permit to allow the development of a wireless communications facility in order to improve the existing service along Highway 16. The proposed facility will support the Washington County 911 services and the expansion of the Next Edge network. Smith Communications will also potentially allow other wireless service providers to utilize this facility, such as AT&T FirstNet. Please note that AT&T is not currently contracted with Smith Communications to co-locate at this proposed facility. The lease area will be 100 feet by 100 feet and located approximately 563 feet south of Hale Mountain Road, Arkansas Highway 3. The applicant is also proposing a tower that will be approximately 320 feet tall with an additional 10-foot tall lightning rod. Should the CUP request be approved, the applicant will then submit for a tower review. If the tower review meets the requirements, then the review can be conducted administratively. If the administrative requirements cannot be met, then the tower will come before the planning board for approval. The red star in the lower left-hand corner of the county is where the tower is supposed to be. The green diamonds represent existing known towers. The nearest two towers are 2.66 miles and 8.91 miles away. This does leave a service gap in this part of the county. The facility will be accessed from Hale Mountain Road via an existing driveway, which will act as an easement to the lease area. This is represented in the dashed black line. And 20-foot tall cell tower reviewed administratively. Section 11-301 of the County Code, paragraph 2 states that new towers may be subject to administrative review if one of the following conditions are satisfied. That A, there are no other residences within 400 feet plus the height of the tower, or B, that all owners of said residences or the landowners upon which the residences are located to have consented in writing to the construction of the tower. 400 feet plus the height of the tower is 720 feet, which is represented in that pinkish circle. There are two residences within this 720 feet, and both of these residences are owned by the same person. Section 11-306 states that all towers shall be set back from the nearest edge of all roads by at least 20 feet plus the height of the tower. Tower is proposed to be 320 feet tall. So that plus 20 feet equals 340 feet. The road is approximately 554 feet away from the tower. The entrance is approximately 709 feet away. On December 3rd, we conducted a site visit. This is the area where the tower will be installed. Due to fences and not wanting to disturb privacy, we did not go further than this. Site distance in either direction of the road was very adequate. Staff did not notice anything that caused concern or alarm while at the site. On November 27th, 2019, we mailed a total of 10 notifications to property owners within 300 feet of the subject parcel. To date, staff has, at the time, staff only received 2 comments in opposition of the project. Both stated that they would be able to see the tower from their properties and that they moved away from the city to be free of nearby towers and lights. One stated that a favorite activity they enjoy with their children is stargazing at night, and the installation of a cell tower would avert the attention away from the stars and the lights on the tower. Had they known that there would eventually be a tower nearby, they would not have purchased this property. And with that, staff recommended approval of the project with the following conditions, and these conditions have not changed. And that concludes the presentation. Any questions?
JP Bushpine. One moment, JP Pine. All right. You recognize JP Pine.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Sita. The lighting on that tower at night, or when it becomes dark, would be an amber light an amber clearance light, I believe. Is that correct?
From my understanding, yes.
And then during the daylight hours, it would be a strobe. And so,
Yes.
From my training in the military, the amber color is the one that we went to in the evening to read by, so it didn't affect our night vision. I believe they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with as far as the tower people are concerned. And I know that part of the county is communication is badly needed for first responders, all kinds of emergency communication, and individuals that might be wrecked or become stranded. But thank you, Judge, for letting me speak. Thank you, Ms. Cedar.
Thank you, JP Pine. Is the applicant there? Does the applicant there, Ms. Cedar? Oh, you.
The applicant is from out of state, and they did get notice of the meeting, and they asked what time this would start. I told them 6 o'clock. I am not 100% sure they were able to attend in time.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cedar. Any of the agencies there online to speak to the project? Any of the agencies, Department of Health, Fire Marshal, ADQ, any of the agencies here to speak to the project? With that, then we'll go ahead. JP Harbison, you had a question?
Well, are we finished with the hearing part yet?
Well, I haven't gone to the public yet.
Oh, okay.
All right, with that, then we'll go to public comments. Public comments to speak on this project, as we have 30 minutes earmarked for that. Any public comments?
Judge, we have Ty Knott.
Ty Knott, you're recognized. You have 3 minutes to go ahead and speak to the project.
You guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead. State your name and restate your name and where you live.
Yeah, my name is Ty Knott, and I'm actually representing Smith Communications. I'm in Owasso, Oklahoma, but we office out of Fayetteville. And just wanted to speak a little bit to this project. Celia covered it very well in the presentation. Just a couple of things I wanted to make clear is that this tower will definitely heavily be used by Washington County 911. They're going to put their equipment. And as the gentleman said right before me, this area is known to be a very, very tough location in the county to be able to get reception for our first responders. I think in the past meeting, there was a little bit of confusion on if AT&T FirstNet was going to be able to use this tower and or location. At this moment, AT&T has been notified, that this tower is in process of trying to be approved. They have not given us notification that they are going to go in there. So at this time, AT&T is not a candidate for their FirstNet. With that being said, these towers are built for 4 carriers, and there will be the opportunity for AT&T to be able to jump on this tower whenever they get ready.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Any other public comments?
Judge Michelle Scoggin.
Ms. Scoggin, you're recognized. Please restate your name and where you live.
Cane Hill, Arkansas.
Say your name again.
Michelle Scoggin.
Okay, go ahead.
The last we were notified was that the Quorum Court meetings were canceled. So we had no notification that you had a meeting last month or this month. And our neighbors and we were planning to oppose this, but we were not notified that this was still happening. I just happened to be on Facebook and accidentally saw it about 5 minutes ago. that it was posted. So not really understanding how, you know, your press conference that you made last month, Quorum Court, was canceled last month, and this is saying this is the second reading for this. And we had requested information from the county on this case, and we never received it to prepare for this because of the close down with COVID-19.
Okay, Mrs. Scogan. Any other comments?
Well, and that's why none of the neighbors are logged in right now either, because I just happened to catch this. And so unfortunately, there's nothing that any of us can say or do about this, unfortunately, because we weren't notified.
Okay.
And we're not prepared.
Any other comments?
No.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Scogan.
Thank
you. Any other public comments? Any other public comments? All right, with that, we'll go on to the hearing by the Quorum Court. Item 12. The appeal hearing decision by the Quorum Court. Any discussion?
They'll have to take action on either.
All right, I'm entertaining a motion to either ratify or deny.
JP Harbison had her hand up.
I don't see it. All right, JP Harbison.
Okay, first, I think at some point we have to put the citizens' safety above individuals. And I think this is one of those situations that we need to do that, because it's very necessary that we have radio communication out or in that part of the county. Improve the Morrow wireless communication facility.
Other discussion, JP Eki?
I'd like to make a second on JP Harbison's motion to approve, ratify this this CUP.
All right, have a motion and a second. JP Lemming.
I'd like to say that everybody needs to be aware where this tower is going. There is no cell phone service. Fire trucks, ambulances, they really can't talk up there. It's really terrible. It's a perfect place for a cell tower. I understand the concerns of sitting on your porch, not seeing, you're seeing it, but the concerns of all the human safety of all the people out in this area and the cell phone service that we need to get fixed out there. It's very important for this tower to go in. It's very important. If you don't get this tower in, there's no sense putting your 911, your new AWIN system up, because that part of the world which is dead. It's not just Morrow. Evansville is dead. Strickler, all that area back in there is going to be took care of by this tower. So this tower is very important for us. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Pine. JP Eva Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to raise a point of order. This is on first reading and does not have an emergency clause. I think the actual motion would be just to read it. And I think out of respect for both the applicant and the neighbors, given this situation, we should not try to advance this through. It's not, I know JP Lemming thinks it's an emergency for other reasons, but it's not styled as an emergency ordinance. It's styled as an ordinance that would go through 3 readings. And so I think I think JP Harbison's motion is out of order, and it should be just read the first time and deferred. Thank you, Judge.
JP, I saw another hand go up.
There's no hand up.
No. So counsel, it does not have emergency clause on that one.
That's correct, Judge. This does not have an emergency clause.
So go ahead and just read it by title only, and then we'll either move that unless there's a suspension of the rule, or we'll go ahead and put that on to the April agenda for the second reading.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustments.
Okay. All right, so we move on to item, is that 13?
Judge, I believe JP Ecke has her hand raised.
I'm sorry, JP Ecke.
Am I unmuted?
JP Ecke, you recognize?
Well, I wanted to make a motion to suspend the rules and advance this to the second reading.
The Morrow project. All right, there's a motion to suspend the rules and move the Morrow Wireless Communication Facility CUP to a second reading. Do we have a second? JP Harbison? Is that a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any public comments?
No public comment on this, Judge.
All right, so we'll just go ahead and do a roll vote. Ms. Patty?
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deakins.
Yes.
Judge, we have 9, 4, and 5 against. So this ordinance fails.
All right, so we'll go to the second reading in the April agenda. All right, we'll go ahead and move to item 15.
14.
14 was taken out. Item 15, Counselor, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance amending ordinance 2019-86 to allow remaining personnel balances to fully or partially fund the 27th employee payroll that was not included in the 2020 budget.
JP Harbison.
Actually, I talked with Bobby Hill before this meeting, and he was not opposed to us tabling this until the next meeting. This is an item I think that needs to be discussed in this year's budget. That's my opinion. So, I know that the comment has been made before that, well, we didn't take care of it last year, so therefore we owe the employees of Washington County an extra paycheck. We can act on that this year. I don't think that comment was appropriate. So I'm going to make a motion that we table this until the May meeting.
One moment, I'm sorry, a motorcycle just drove by. Say it again, I'm sorry, JP Harbison.
I'm making a motion that we table it until the May meeting.
All right, JP Lemming. JP Lemming.
Second Ann's motion.
All right, we have a motion to table item 15 and a second by JP Lemming. Ms. Patty, you want to go ahead and do a roll?
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
Okay,
The motion has been approved.
all right, the motion passes. The approval of the ordinance to move and be tabled to the May meeting. Okay, thank you, Patty, Miss Patty. Item 17, JP Pond. Well, Council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance changing the title of desktop support technician in the information technology budget for 2020.
JP Pond.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Does this have to be read 3 times? I'm asking the county attorney.
No, because there's an appropriation or there's money tied to it. It is technically would be considered an appropriation ordinance, so it would only have to be read once if there are 10 votes in favor of it.
Move to pass 17.
You got a motion to pass item 17. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by JP Lemming. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Any public comments? Ms. Patty, will you do the roll?
Lisa Ecke. Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Derek Thomas. Judith Yanez. She's muted.
JP
Okay,
Yanez,
there you are.
muted?
Yes.
There you are, Judith
Okay.
Yanez. Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
All right, this vote 4-14, so this ordinance passes.
Thank you, Ms. Patty. The ordinance passes. Item 18, Council, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance creating the position of Assistant Director in the Animal Shelter budget for 2020 and eliminating the position of Administrative Assistant in the Animal Shelter budget for 2020.
Ms. JP Pond?
Move to pass item number 18.
Motion by JP Pond to pass item 18. Is there a second? JP Jenkins. We have a motion and a second to pass item 18. Ms. Patty, no, any public comments? Any other discussion? Let me ask that. Any other discussions by the JPs? Any public comments? Any public comments? All right, Ms. Patty, will you do the roll call?
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Sam Duncan.
Yes.
Chandra Washington.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
Sue Madison.
Yes.
Willie Lemming.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Butch Pond.
Yes.
Lance Johnson.
Yes.
Susan Cunningham.
Yes.
Derek Thomas. Judith Yanez.
Yes.
Patrick Deacons.
Yes.
We have 14-4. This ordinance passes. All right, thank you, JP's, Ms. Patty. All right, at this point, we will go ahead and call on the chairs of the committees. Let's go with County Services, JP Jenkins.
Really isn't anything to report. We didn't have a meeting. I served as my chair for my first meeting actually month before, let's see, February. But that's pretty much the only business we did was to vote for a co-chair, and that was Willie Lemming was voted as our co-chair. That's all.
Thank you, JP Jenkins. JP Harbison, Finance and Budget.
The Finance and Budget Committee met on March the 10th, and we had reports from our treasurer, Bobby Hill, report from Nelson Driver, our insurance person, and John Worthen gave the controller's report. And we passed 11 ordinances that were on the court agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Harbison. Jails, law enforcement, and courts, JP Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Judge. We had a meeting back in early March and the report's in the packet.
Thank you, JP Johnson. And personnel, JP Pond.
Thank you, Judge. Personnel Committee met March 9th, and the committee approved the 2 requests made by you, the county judge, that we just got through approving this evening. Thank y'all for the approval of those. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Pine. With that, the meeting is over. We're going to take 5 minutes before we move into our April meeting. So go get your water refreshed, and we'll resume back in 5 minutes. Good. Stand up, shake off. Okay, we're back. The Washington County Quorum Court, April 16, 2020 meeting is now called into order. Again, welcome back. We just completed our first meeting of the night, and now we're having our second meeting during this COVID-19 teleconference setup. So again, bear with us. Thank you for your patience, JPs and citizens, as we walk through all of this. With that, we'll go ahead and look at the adoption of the agenda. And with that, we've had several ordinances that were appropriations, and they passed with 10 votes. And so we're going to go ahead and look to remove those off of your agenda. Those would be items 8. Item 8 was tabled until May.
He got a hand up. Stephen Madison has her hand up.
JP Madison.
Judge, I just wanted to make sure. So this is, I know we're calling it a second meeting, but we didn't adjourn the first one. And so is that right?
Yes.
Okay, well then I just want to make sure things that you said earlier that were going to be on April, they can't be read at the same meeting. I think that's a procedural error. If this is all one meeting tonight, which I think it has to be.
I adjourned March, and now we're opening into April.
Okay, well, if we adjourned, then this is a second meeting for which the public wasn't given notice under FOIA. If we adjourned and this is a second meeting, then it's not a proper meeting.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think we either have one meeting and read things once, or we have 2 meetings and the second meeting is improper. Because I looked at the notice and it said that there was a notice of 1 quorum court meeting. So I think, I'm just wondering, I don't want to have everything we do tonight be subject to error.
I think we put that out there. Council, I don't know if you have any other insight on there, but we pushed that and shared that with the media, to the JPs, as well as to the citizens of the county.
Judge, I'm of the opinion that the meeting dates have been set and are established by ordinance for the 3rd Thursday at 6 o'clock. For the March meeting, you postpone that meeting as you're allowed under executive order under an emergency situation. You postpone that meeting to the April meeting date, which means you postpone that meeting to the same date as the April meeting. The public and everyone has, we don't send out, there's no notice that's sent out after the ordinance is passed and the meetings are set. That's the notice that has set out. So we are set for an April meeting today. You postponed the March meeting until today's date. You adjourned the last meeting and started this meeting. That I don't believe there's anything improper. I think we're well within the rights and notice to go ahead and have this meeting.
Well,
JP Madison.
Judge, I just want to ask, if the first meeting was adjourned and this is a second meeting, then the notice that's on the website says we're having 1 meeting. Okay, so if we're having a second meeting, then there's a problem with notice.
Well, no, the website doesn't necessarily serve as notice, JP Madison. The ordinance that
I'm sorry, I'm directing my comments to the judge.
You're going to stop talking while I'm talking. Okay. The ordinance that you passed is what serves as notice. And so notice has been given to the public. Notice was given to the public when the last meeting was postponed until today's date. So the public has notice that there are 2 meetings to be held on this date.
Any other questions? All right, so on the agenda, we're going to look to remove item 8. JP Madison.
I need to know if this is a second meeting and the first meeting was adjourned, or if we are in one continuous meeting.
This is a second meeting. The first meeting was adjourned.
Okay, then this meeting was not given notice of FOIA, and everything we do tonight is suspect.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. So item 8 was tabled, which was the payroll. We moved that to the main meeting. Item 9 was removed in the previous meeting. And items 18 and 19 were passed. So with that, I seek a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. JP Eki.
All the ordinances that were in March's agenda were forwarded to the April agenda should be included in April's agenda.
Okay, we need a motion.
So I make a motion to approve and adopt the agenda with March's, which moved forward.
We have a motion to approve the agenda as, the adoption of the agenda as amended. Is there a second? JP Madison, Sue Madison.
I want to clarify the things that we just discussed in the March meeting that forwarded on to the April meeting. Are we now going to hear those in this April meeting? Because that strikes me as wrong. The public would, in their head, think they will hear it next month.
No, it would go to the next meeting, which is this meeting. It's no different than if you suspend the rules and you have the same hearing 3 times in one meeting. And so this is moved to the second meeting, and the April meeting has already been scheduled. It's scheduled by ordinance. That ordinance passed, I don't know how many years ago, setting this meeting date. And so this is the April meeting. All those would be on a second reading here at this meeting.
Well, I didn't hear the judge adjourn us. I heard him say, go take a break.
I did say adjourn. Any other questions? We have a motion by JP Akey to adopt the agenda as amended. Is there a second? JP Lemming?
Second.
All right, we have a motion to adopt the agenda and a second by JP Lemming. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
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 All right, Ms. Patty, will you do a roll?
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deacons,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
We
have 10 for and 4 against.
All right, the
So it is
adoption of
adopted.
the amended agenda is passed. JP Harbison? JP Harbison, your hand is up.
I had my hand up for a second and then.
Oh, okay.
So
All right, thank you. JP Sue Madison.
I move that we read the ordinances by title only.
All right, we have a preliminary motion, motion by JP Madison to read by title only. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by JP Lemming. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes, so we'll be reading those ordinances by title only. This one, we now go to citizen comments. At this point, we have citizen comments, 15 minutes, and we ask the citizens to come. They have 3 minutes. Please come, state your name and where you're from. If you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand to be recognized. If you're on the phone, please press *9 and we'll take it from there. Any citizen comments? Any citizen comments?
Judge Sherry Main. Hold on just a
Sherry Main, you're recognized. You have 3 minutes. Please to restate your name and where you're from.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Speak a little louder.
Gary Main, 15574 Riches Road, Fayetteville. And I just wanted to comment on at the beginning of the meeting, starting it, whether we're in 1 meeting or 2 meetings. I also never heard the adjournment of the first meeting. Just wanted to comment that.
Okay. Any other comments? Thank you, Ms. Main. Citizen comments? Citizen comments? citizen comments. All right. With that, we'll go with the no approval of the minutes, no minutes to approve. The county judge's report. Again, the county property report is in your agenda packet. At this time, I made my comments during the March meeting, and again, regarding the COVID-19 brief. In this one, I just really want to thank all of you who have been very encouraging and supportive of your elected officials, your first responders and medical providers, those who are out there serving food. It's been an unbelievable movement to take care of the county. In particular, I want to recognize my exec team, Brian Lester, Carl Gales, and Julie Harris. Our Department of Emergency Management team, Director Luther, you and your team have been amazing in connecting with the state, let alone the county and the neighboring county. Roger Morris and I have been on and back and forth probably every day, if not 2 or 3 times a day. And again, we also had those not first responders, but he's considered those last responders. And so again, to the funeral directors out there and the coroners out there, thank you for the work that you're doing to help us navigate through all of this and take care of those loved ones who are passing during this COVID-19. While we have not had any deaths related to COVID-19, the ramping up in preparation for something like that has been, again, unimaginable, trying to do the work and prep work for that. Our IT team, Sydney Reynolds and Lisa Tolan, you and your technology team, again, getting everyone around the county to be able to work remotely, to do these meetings. You guys have been above and beyond, and so super kudos to you guys. Appreciate each and every one of you. To all the circuit judges and all the countywide elected officials who meet with me every Monday to kind of, again, talk about the state of the county, what's going on in regard to the COVID-19. Appreciate you guys. The sheriff and his deputies have been outstanding, putting in, again, the hours and serving with a smile, given all the many changes that continue to come down from the federal and the state. And I appreciate you guys for, again, taking care of the employees. Prosecuting attorney, public defender, the county health director, Robin Thomas, several state legislators have reached out and again, offered their assistance and support. And again, prayers, I appreciate that. Dr. Nathan Smith down at the state, again, his support of what we're doing here. And again, he just approved our 2 county health officials here, Dr. Jess Daniel and Dr. Daniel Young. So again, thank you, Dr. Smith, as you work with the state and the Department of Health and the governor and managing and leading us through the crisis. And I want to do a special salute to our building and grounds crew, obviously, for keeping our buildings not only tidy and clean and stocked with toilet paper, but again, you guys have been out there helping with the personal equipment and making sure, again, our buildings are tidy as we go in and out as best as possible with limited services. And to the citizens who reached out again to pray and send words of encouragement. I know many of you reached out to JPs and encouraged them, as well as some of the other other elected officials. The countywide elected officials and JPs, as well as circuit judges, are here to keep Washington County a destination county. We will pull through this. And again, I just want to encourage you, citizens in Washington County. It will be tough, but we'll get through this. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you very much. With that, we will go ahead and go to our item 7, which is on the second reading. Brian, Council, would you read that by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board of Adjustments.
Any discussion? Quorum Court, it's on the second read. JP Jenkins.
Yes, thank you, Judge. I was just going to mention that you had begun going through the agenda and saying what we were taking off, that we had that we weren't going to be needing to read for this meeting, and that's when JP Sue Madison had stepped in to talk, and so we never finished doing that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I did. Let me see if I can go back to that.
Thank you. I just want to make sure we have our agenda in line and in order.
Absolutely. So item 8 was tabled. Item 9 was removed, as well as 18 and 19 were passed. JP Hires.
Thank you, Judge. I'm just speaking on the wireless conditional use permit. This is something I normally would be very much in favor of, but I'm really uncomfortable with the fact that the neighbors did not have proper notice about this. And for that reason alone, I will not be voting for this. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you, JP Hires. It's only on the second reading, so if you guys don't suspend the rules, we'll move on to the next month's agenda. Any other discussion? Public comments? Any public comments?
No.
Oh, yeah, we just moves on to the next month's meeting then. With that, we move to item these are the consent agenda items. And so with that, Council, will you read through those one by one? We'll take them one at a time after you read through all. Just go ahead and read item 10, Counselor, and then we'll let JP Harbison go with it.
An ordinance recognizing additional revenue, $500 in the JDC Pond Landscape Grant Fund and appropriating $500 from the grant fund to the JDC budget for 2020.
All right, JP Harbison. Oh, JP Harbison, and then was that?
Okay. I move that we pass the JDC Pond Landscape Grant to the JDC budget.
All right, got a motion to pass item number 10.
It's on a second reading. So unless the rules are suspended, it'll automatically move on to next month's agenda.
All right. JP Ecke and then JP Madison.
I move to suspend the rules and advance it to the second reading.
Got a motion to suspend the rules and move to a second. JP Madison, Eva Madison.
Thank you, Judge. I just wanted to say that I'm going to be voting against these items. I think that we're trying to read them twice in one night without suspending the rules. I think we would be much safer if we let these be read in May, because I don't want to go through all these and vote for them and have them be invalid because they're being read twice in the same night. So I'll be voting against item 10.
Okay, JP Madison. JP Pond.
I second the motion to put this on the second reading. And I do want to say that as far as having two meetings the same night, there have been cases like this in the past. We're not setting a precedent by doing this. I'm just saying, I'm saying that instead of saying we've done it before, or that's what we've always done in the past when there was an emergency. I'll just put it that way. This has been done before and most likely will be done again, and we need to do what we need to do to provide services for the people in this county that we represent. Thank you.
JP Sue Harbison and then JP Sue Madison.
On these ordinances, these are grants. They should not be controversial. It's making available the funds for these people to go on and use them. And I see no need for them to have to wait a month to receive their funds. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Harbison. JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I was just going to say the opposite. I don't see any reason for us to be rushing through these. I mean, things are virtually at a standstill now. And I'm concerned about notice to the public. I don't think we've done proper notice to the public on any of these items. I'm going to not vote. I'll be voting against them.
All right, JP Madison. We have a motion on the floor and a second to pass, suspend the rules and read for a third time. All in favor?
Who was the second?
Second, that was seconded by JP Pond.
Aye.
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 No.
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 All right, Ms. Patty.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Sandra Washington,
Sorry, was trying to raise my hand. I thought that the motion was made to move this to a second reading and not third reading.
It is second reading.
Okay, I thought you just said third. I'm
I did.
It's second.
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Judge, we have 8 votes for and 6 against, so this fails.
All right, item 10, wait, goes to the next month's meeting. Item 11, council, will you read that by title only?
Item 11 on its second reading, an ordinance anticipating additional grant revenue in the general fund for 2020 and appropriating said revenue to various budgets within the drug court grant fund for 2020.
JP Harbison.
In this on second reading, so unless we have a motion to suspend the rules, I guess we'll wait till next month to vote on this.
Okay, JP Harbison. You have a second?
There was no motion made, Judge.
There's no motion, okay. All right. We're just gonna move that one to the next month? Is there?
That's correct.
All right. Item 12, Counselor, will you read that by title only?
An ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $76,382 in the law enforcement grant fund and appropriating the amount of $76,382 from the law enforcement grant fund to the SCAP 2019 budget for 2020.
And no discussion, JP Ecke?
No discussion. Only a motion.
Oh, okay, there's no discussion there. Item 13, JP, Counsel, will you read that one by title only?
An ordinance anticipating additional revenue in the amount of $14,312 in the law enforcement grant fund and appropriating $14,312 from the law enforcement grant fund to the JAG grant budget for 2020.
Any discussion? All right, we move that one on. Item 14. JP Harbison.
I was just going to say it was on second reading.
Yes, all these are on second, so.
All these on second reading, so.
Yes, all these are on second. They'll move to next month for the third and final.
Okay.
Council, read item 14.
An ordinance recognizing revenue in the amount of $339,307 in the high intensity drug trafficking areas grant fund and appropriating $339,307 from the HIDA grant fund to the HIDA 2020 budget for 2020.
Any discussion?
No discussion.
All right, item 15, Counselor.
Item 15 is a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application to the Arkansas Unpaved Roads Grant for road improvements on Jess Anderson Road.
Go ahead and read item 16, Counselor.
An ordinance adjusting carryover revenues in various funds for 2020.
JP Harbison.
On the previous motion, that was not a revenue, that was just for the application of a grant. So can we not vote on that one tonight?
On item 15, the resolution,
Yes.
if you motion to suspend the
I'm
rules.
Well, I don't think we need to suspend the rules, do we? It doesn't have to be on 3 readings. It's just an application for a grant.
I think the resolution.
I move that we pass 14, no, it's 15. I move we pass 15.
There's a motion on the floor to pass resolution item number 15 by JP Harbison.
Judge, I believe since we went ahead and moved past item number 15, that's motion's out of order.
That motion's out of order?
How is that motion out of order?
Because you're going back to an item that we've already gone and we've moved on to the next item, you'd need to suspend the rules to reconsider, go back to that item.
Well, I couldn't get my thing on the right to get my hand up. I'm going to start doing like Willie does and start waving my hand.
Judge JP Madison has her hand raised.
JP, which Madison? JP Even Madison, you recognize?
Thank you, Judge. I actually think that one got 8 votes in the last meeting. So I think it actually passed already.
I think it did too.
The resolution only needs a simple majority.
Yes, it does.
So I think we cured JP Harbison's issue right there.
Ms. Patty, I can't recall the numbers. Was that a simple?
It's 15. Yeah, it's just.
I just can't recall.
Can we pause for a minute? Put it on mute.
Ms. Patty, will you look that up?
It was on the consent agenda and we voted.
Yeah, the resolution. How many votes were in favor of the?
It was 8-6 for the consent agenda.
Right, so everything would have moved on to a second reading on the consent agenda. That were ordinances that required at least 10 votes to pass on the first. If they don't, they automatically move on. A resolution, JP Madison is correct. A resolution just takes a simple majority to pass because it's a resolution and not an ordinance. And so it doesn't require the multiple readings if it passes with the majority.
Okay, so given that, then 15 then is passed. Do we want to restate that one, or do we just need to go ahead and accept that one as passed from the Marches?
I believe so.
So that would really, we got to put that and reflect that in the minutes. Item 16, JP, Counsel, will you read that one?
An ordinance adjusting carryover revenues in various funds for 2020.
Item 17.
An ordinance reducing the amount of $714,384 from line items in various county budgets and restoring those funds to unappropriated reserves, and appropriating the amount of $945,449 from unappropriated reserves to various budget line items for 2019.
Okay. And that was the last of the ordinances. We're going to item 20 then, which would be, Council, would you read that one?
Item 20 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the general fund in the amount of $49,482.75 and appropriating $49,482.75 from the general fund to the Buildings and Grounds budget for 2020.
And JP Harbison.
Okay. This is money that we received from SWEPCO, and it went into the general fund, and they would like for that to go back into the building and grounds. So I move that we pass 20.
I have a motion to approve item number 20, JP Madison and then JP Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I just have a question about these 3 ordinances that are under new business. Were they heard by the Finance Committee before this meeting?
No, they were not, because there were no committee meetings held.
Would they not ordinarily have been sent to committee first?
Ordinarily, if there were committee meetings, they would have been sent to a committee first.
So we no longer have to have a committee meeting to have an ordinance appear on the agenda? I'm wondering why we have committee meetings.
Well,
go ahead, Counselor.
Well, my only answer to that, JP Madison, would be the fact that the reason we don't have a committee meeting this month wasn't due to decisions by the Quorum Court not to have meetings or a particular person. It's due to a national and state emergency that we're currently in. And so these are not the same times as we normally would have. And so the normal rules, just like this meeting, don't apply completely. And so in order to get business done, because there wasn't committee meetings and there wasn't the ability for this to go to a committee, the only option would be to put this on the Quorum Court's, put them on the Quorum Court agenda. Now, if you are well within your right to suspend the rules and refer this back to a committee, and these things can then sit at a committee whenever that may be.
Let me for a minute. I think you really understand my point.
Go ahead, JP.
If we really don't need for these to go through a committee, I don't know why we're doing something that's unnecessary, and it seems that it is unnecessary.
Because the Quorum Court passed an ordinance that said that they were establishing committees and that things would go to committees. That's well within the Quorum Court's power to get rid of and say nothing goes to committee and everything's taken care of in a meeting. Committees aren't required. That's a rule that your body passed.
And there's no rule that says these budget ordinances have to be heard by a committee first.
That's correct.
Well, I think that's something we might all think about, because apparently we're wasting time and money if we don't need to. It's not a requirement. Let's just think about it. But I hear the attorney saying there's nothing at all improper about hearing these. No special suspension of any rules is necessary, correct?
You guys said that you could put the ordinances on if you guys give prior notice to the meeting, proper notice of, I think it's 4 or 5 days, and you guys can still add it to the agenda. JP, was that Stephen Madison? And then
so I'm glad that we've gotten this money from SWEPCO. I think it strikes me as to whether we should not more carefully evaluate if Buildings and Grounds needs this. And I don't mean to suggest that they don't. I just, given the uncertainties of the financial situation we're in, I almost wonder if we shouldn't evaluate where these funds should be best put. I know we've received, and the judge, you've alluded to them, that we're probably going to see a hit in our sales tax. And I don't know what that means for the rest of the year. All of us are nervous about the economy, personally for the county, nationally for the state. And so I just wonder if we shouldn't press pause on this money going directly to Buildings and Grounds for them to spend until we're sure that that's absolutely where we need it to go. And I fully acknowledge that Buildings and Grounds has faced some unique challenges being responsible for the facilities lately. I would expect they've had to buy more hand sanitizer and things like that. But if we've got money, especially of almost $50,000, I think we ought to be a little bit more cautious in how we're appropriating it, just because of what the future could hold for the county's economy. So I think I'm going to abstain on this right now, just because I'm just nervous, and I know we don't have anything on the agenda really yet that's talking about the forecast. And I know that Treasurer Hill is probably hearing things, but because sales tax is delayed, we don't really know things yet. But I just think we ought to be a little more cautious with how we're appropriating money right now until we have a better feel for what the economic impact on the county will be. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Judge, and I'll clarify
Duncan.
quick, Judge. Typically, these ordinances, these monies go back into the budgets from which the money was paid out. In January or February, I'm not sure which one it was. It ended up being Ordinance 2020-04. There were rebates given for money that was paid out of the jail fund. And the Quorum Court passed unanimously an ordinance to put that money back into the jail budget of $16,298.06. So these are not monies that are picked for a budget. They typically go back into the budget from which they came out.
JP Duncan.
The question, please.
So we have a ordinance, JP Harbison put a motion. We have call the question. JP Harbison.
Motion that we approve 20.
And we had a motion and we had a second. Who was the second?
I believe you need to ask the parliamentarian. We have to vote on calling the question in the debate.
Yeah, the question's been called, so the debate ends. And so we'd vote on the question being called.
And the question is to pass the order.
Stop debate.
All in favor of ending the debate?
Hold on, Judge. I've got to unmute everybody. If you can hold on a sec.
All in favor of ending the debate?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Ms. Patty, will you do the roll call?
Judge, was it?
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
I don't think there was a second, but no.
Andrea Jenkins.
I just want clarification. We are voting to end debate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Suki Hires.
Yes.
I'm sorry, did you say?
Oh.
Yes. Okay. Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison, Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Where's Patrick? He leave?
No, he's here.
we have 12 for and 2 against. So it passes.
All right, so now we can go ahead and move to vote on the ordinance. The motion was JP Harbison, seconded was that JP Pond?
It was me.
Who's me?
Lisa
Ecke.
JP Ecke, okay. Any discussion? Any public comments? Any public comments? Roll call, Ms. Patty.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Abstain.
Eva Madison,
Abstain.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
We have 11 for, 1 no, and 2 abstain. This ordinance passes.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Patty. The ordinance passes. Item number 21, Council, will you read that one by title only?
Item 21 is an ordinance reducing the total amount of $78,227.19 from various funds and appropriating the amount of $78,227.19 to various line items in the animal shelter budget for 2020.
JP Harbison.
Donations that's been made to the animal shelter, and they want to put it into their budget. I make a motion that we pass this.
We have a motion by JP Harbison. A second, is that by JP Jenkins? Or is that a hand raised? JP Madison.
Given my comments last time, my assumption is, especially with the $20,000 grant, that these donations were specifically earmarked. Can somebody confirm that? It's not, I don't think this is money that we could appropriate for another purpose. I think it's where they were donations given.
Yeah, they were earmarked for the animal shelter. So they only the animal shelter can utilize these funds. They've just not been previously appropriated.
Got it. Thank you.
JP Duncan.
Second.
Well, yeah, I think JP Jenkins had a second. You want to third it, but anyway, we got a first by JP Harbison, a second by JP Jenkins. Is there any other discussion? Any other discussion? Public comments? Public comments. Ms. Patty, will you take the roll?
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Chandra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke.
Yes.
Uh,
We have 14 for. This ordinance passes.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Patty. The ordinance passes. Item number 22. Counselor.
Item 22 is an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $15,000 in the AOC Juvenile Court Grant Fund and appropriating $15,000 from the AOC Juvenile Court Grant Fund to various line items in the AOC Juvenile Court Grant budget for 2020.
JP Harbison.
I move that we approve this ordinance.
Second.
A second. The motion to move by JP Harbison, second by JP Lemming. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any public comments? Public comments? Ms. Patty, will you take the roll?
Sam Duncan,
He's muted.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shonda Washington,
Oh,
Eva Mad,
No, I'm not even watching her.
Who's voting?
Shonda Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins,
Yes.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Lemming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas, Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
we have 13 for and 1 against. This ordinance passes.
All right, that ordinance passes. Thank you, Ms. Patty. Item
Judge JP Sue Madison has her hand raised.
JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I just want to make a comment before we start adjourning the meeting, since I doubt there are any committee reports since we had no committee meetings, but I think we need to all be considering what lies ahead of us. And we've been spending money tonight. We've been appropriating money, et cetera. I think from here on out, we need to all be looking at cutting spending. Our sales tax revenue is certainly going to be greatly affected by what's going on in the country right now. People may not be able to pay property taxes with the employment situation. We need to be, from here on out, very, very cautious and careful, because we don't get to print money like the federal people do. And we have to have a balanced budget. So everybody just needs to kind of keep in mind of what's ahead of us, and it's not going to be fun. That's all I have.
Thank you, J.P. Madison.
Lisa Ecke has her hand up.
J.P. Ecke and J.P. Lemon.
I agree that we should be very cognizant of whatever money's coming in, revenues or whatever. And therefore, I don't understand why grant money was not accepted tonight when that was free money, nothing out of your pocket, nothing out of county general, but yet it was rejected and abstained, and you have to wait. There was no need to wait on any grant money. So if you're going to be chastising this court and warning this court about revenue, then I think you need to turn the tables and decide, why didn't I receive the grant money? It's nothing out of my pocket. So think about it yourself before you chastise the court. Thank you.
J.P. Lemming and then J.P. Eva Madison. J.P. Lemming.
Judge, I just want to say thank you to you and the CDC and talking to the governors and getting us our PPEs, our masks, our face shields and everything for the fire departments, because we've got plenty and we're using them. And I want to thank you for the help for getting all that for us. And I also want to thank all the Quorum Court members for trying to get through this and not make a damn mess out of it. But I think we're doing the best we can with the laws and the rules that we've got going on for us. And I've heard arguments about these meetings wasn't posted and stuff. We've talked about this, and it's been on the news and it's been everywhere. There was 2 meetings posted. People are to be able to hear that. So I don't know why we're arguing over all this. And another thing I'd like to say about the cell phones and the cell phone towers, I'd like for all 15 of you JPs to get in your car and drive tomorrow, Evansville, Strickler, and try to get on your phones and text and email and get pictures and do what you do in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And you'll see how important them towers are to the rural Washington County people. They're very, very important. So with that said, thank you all. Good night.
Thank you, J.P. Lemming. J.P. Eva Madison and then J.P. Harbison.
Thank you, Judge. I'm going to choose kindness in the comments that I choose to give as we close out our meeting. And I'm going to give a shout out to Sheriff Tim Helder for his decision today to indefinitely suspend the 287G program. It is a true victory for this community and for the immigrants that we share our lives with. And I wanted to celebrate his decision and recognize it in a public meeting for what it was. Thank you so much. Make the decision alone. So thanks to all the individuals that helped with this decision. We've done a great job through this process of keeping our jail population low, and we have not seen the issues of jail outbreaks and prison outbreaks that we've seen around the rest of the country. So thank you guys so much for all you're doing at the jail and all our law enforcement officers are doing. Thanks, Judge.
Thank you, J.P. Madison. J.P. Harbison.
This is my first Zoom meeting, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it might be.
Very well done.
Thank you.
J.P. Washington, are you on?
I'm here.
I want to give a shout out to you as well. When I pulled the task, if you will, of the countywide elected officials and the county health director and director of emergency management to talk weekly about our county and where we are and what we're doing and managing the county affairs, I wanted to make sure I had a JP represented, and I asked JP Washington to serve, and she's been on and provide invaluable information, and I really appreciate you being on those calls, in those meetings, and helping us navigate through this. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
JP Jenkins.
First of all, I want to say this is like my 5th Zoom meeting of the day as a school teacher. And hold on, let me get to where I can see. Okay. And something fun that happened in the community today that you guys might want to know about is that Williams Elementary in Farmington did a drive-by parade for all of our students throughout the county area of our school district. And we had kids lining the road and waving at us, and it was a super special event. It was nice to have kids being able to get out and see their teachers. So I just wanted to mention that. It was fun. It was heartwarming for all of us.
I didn't say it, but I tell you, teachers are, man, what an unbelievable work you guys are going through.
I've had 25 third graders on Zoom meetings 3 times a day. So
salute to you and all the parents at home who's taking on that job as well. I saw one other hand up. That was it. Well, with that, we had no committee meetings. And so with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys. Continue to do what you're doing. Be an encourager. Check on your family, your friends, and your neighbors. Appreciate you guys. Meeting adjourned.